So, okay, it might just be you and I today. We'll see. I got a message from one person today saying that they cannot make it. So I totally understand. How familiar are you with what's happening in the news with real estate and commissions?
Like the what's happening with the wait, can you ask it again?
Are you aware of, hey, Jorge, how are you doing? Welcome back.
Sure.
I just asked a question. How familiar are you with what's happening in the real estate industry with what's going on with commissions, et cetera? Have you heard the
Mm,
headlines?
like the NAR losses?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. So
Yeah, I was
that's
hearing about it today.
good. Oh, good, wonderful. I want everybody to, even those who aren't here who will listen to this, Google, if you don't know what it's about, NAR lawsuit, get familiar with it. You need to know what's going on in the industry as realtors. Get on inman.com or housingwire.com, anywhere, any news source. And even if you just Google it or Yahoo News or email news or CNBC, any of those outlets, will share what's going on in the industry, because real estate is a very political industry. A lot of things are going on right now. Our commissions, it's a don't panic situation, but it's be very well aware of what's happening, what's going on in the industry, because it could affect your commissions at some point. The judge hasn't ruled on what changes will be made to how buyer agency works. The case, as well as several more, will most likely take place and will take months to be finalized. For most agents and brokers, there are no immediate changes that need to be made. California is really good with their forms already. There might be some changes, maybe to the contract, maybe forms with different brokerages at the onset of your relationship with taking on buyers. Things like that might change. Some of the questions people were asking, people meaning agents in the industry. I was sitting on that webinar last week that CAR had put on, and they were asking, well, does NAR even have the money to pay for the lawsuit? And well, I mean, yes. And the lawsuit that came into play last week was in a different state. So a lot of these sometimes are domino effects and sometimes they're not. So CAR, or not CAR, NAR, the whole realtor associations, the whole realtor as a whole has very powerful guns when it comes to going into political arenas. So there have been many Senate bills that have been squashed because the real estate industry has gotten in there. If it was something that was against homeowners, they fight it hard. So they have a lot of power. Hey, Raquel, how are you? Good to see you. Hi. The other thing I want to bring up is, okay, let's see what will happen as a result if the lawsuits and settlements do happen. The most likely outcome will be that the listing contract might change to be more transparent. On there now, I think it's item 3D. On the listing contract down there, it has a section, well, 3A has a section for the total commission, and then 3D has a section for the buyer broker commission or a flat fee. So either of those things already there, if they can become clearer or even more transparent than they already are, then that might happen. We might see that kind of a change. But I think California overall is really good with their contracts. There are other states that aren't as clear as ours. So that's something to note. Oh, sorry about that. It's very loud on my side. Okay, so hopefully everyone, meaning buyers, sellers, buyers agents, and listing agents, will still agree that buyer agents have value, because everyone is used to splitting commissions and sellers paying for both sides. There may not be any appreciable change to how things are done. So that is just going to be a way that we're going to have to learn how to talk with clients. Now, all of you are new, so you don't know what you don't know. So how I would maybe share a conversation with a buyer client before would have sounded something like, you don't have to pay me, because some of them may have asked me, how do you get paid? And I would maybe in the past tell them, well, you don't have to worry about paying me because it comes out of the seller side of the commission. That is going to change now. Now I'm going to have conversations well ahead of time. I know a lot of you I talked about and have even given out that list of questions that is very lengthy. And it sounds very robotic if you read it line by line, word for word, as if you're reading it from a piece of paper. But the point of those questions is to have a regular conversation with people like, hey, Juan, is this your first time buying a home? No, it's not. Oh, okay. Well, when was the last time you purchased a home? And then you would tell me, last year or 5 years ago. Great. Was that in this area or somewhere else? Maybe you sold a home in Texas. Well, real estate's very different in every other state. So knowing where they're coming from. So you always want to be asking questions to find, get deeper to the heart of what I like to call the artichoke, right? You get to the heart of the artichoke by asking all the questions. So why do I need to know when you bought a home? Because the real estate market's changed vastly. If you bought a home 2 years ago, that's going to make a huge difference from what you knew how the process was then to what it's like today. And where are you moving? And where you're moving to, that market's going to be different too, most likely. So all of these are going to set you up in asking questions to get to know the buyer, but it's also showing the buyer you have value in even asking all these questions at the onset and letting them know. So my fee, once you go through a lot of the questions and you find out if you've been a seller before, what was your experience like with other realtors or your last realtor, and they can tell you if it was good, bad, or ugly. And if it was great, wonderful. What did you love about it? Find out, because you want to emulate those things that they loved about that last realtor, because you want to be having the same kind of reputation that the past realtor had. And if the realtor obviously was in another state, that's why they're not using them again. Or maybe that realtor referred them to you. Or if they had an awful experience and you can say, really, what happened? Tell me a little bit about that. And maybe they didn't do any marketing. Well, then now with that information, you're going to do some marketing. Or, they didn't call me. Or so what are you going to do? You're going to call them. How important is that for them to call you? How many times a week would you like to be called? So by asking them questions, you find out what they like, what they don't like. That's important. So that helps you tailor your value and your service to your client. Every client is going to be different, and you want to be able to work with them at their speed, but also be that confident professional that you are, and share with them and talk with them about real estate in a professional manner. And as you're having these conversations with them, you are going to have a copy of and I know I mentioned this before, but I feel like now more than ever in this landscape, having a buyer presentation is going to be so important, or having a buyer packet is going to be so important. And what's in those packets? It's your process. It's how you work. It's the buyer process, especially if they're brand new. And Juan, you had asked me about that before. And I have a sample that I can show you all. I think I had one that I actually created a long time ago under a different business name. And let me pull that up first so I could share it. And you can see some of the things that are in it, but what I can add to it would be my, here's one. Okay, let me get rid of that. And then let me share my screen. Oops. Go in here to share. Where do I share my screen? Hang on a second. There we go. Make that bigger. Share screen. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So this is the buyer presentation. This is one I had from a long time ago, and you have your information. You can customize these to you. You have your about you. This is great to have at open houses. You can have a little packet that you have already available. You can give it to buyers, and you're definitely going to give this to clients that you're working with on the onset of actually, before you go showing them a house, you're going to give them this information here. And it will say, you know, who you are, all about you, who's your team. So I put little placeholders in here. So if you have favorite title reps that you're working with, you're going to put their image here and their contact information, or at least their image in an email or something like that. Or even if you just want to keep it very general and vague, you can use the image of the logo of like Chicago Title or First American Title, and you can put your favorite lenders in there, etc. Or if you have an actual team, like if you were the team lead and you have buyer brokers working with you or listing agents working with you, you can put those people on there as well too. Having a team gives the idea that there is value, like, oh, you're a professional, you have an actual team that you work with. So there's that. And then the buying process, you know, first the person decides to buy, they pick a real estate agent, they get pre-approved, they find the right home, they make an offer, they negotiate the offer, inspections, appraisal, final loan approval, and closing. Of course, there's so many more things that happen in between in all of these, but these are just the global highlights that they need to see at a glance when they're first, you know, getting introduced to the idea of possibly purchasing a home. And then when you're buying your home, you gather financials and figure out how much you can afford. Because this goes into some details and some of why renting versus buying, you know, to rent or to buy, weighing out the benefits of each depending on their needs. That will determine what's better for them or not. And the difference between pre-qualification and pre-approval. That's going to be important to them. Knowing, finding the right house, you're going to want to, you know, talk to them a little bit more extensively about what their wants and needs are, how they see themselves living in the home. Is it just a commuter home, a place to stay at while they go to and from work to Silicon Valley or whatnot? You can add and take away pages that you like in something like this. I also have a page that makes, you can make copies of this, or they can make copies of this to use when they're house hunting. And it gives them a reference point of when they're at a home. Like if this is for house, you know, 123 Main Street, they can check mark if different areas of criteria that they like, that they think is good, excellent, fair, or poor, such as, you know, the bedroom size, the bathroom size, is it good, is it fair, is it excellent, is it poor, and they can make notes on it, etc. So that's important a lot of the times for buyers when you're taking them around looking at stuff. What they don't normally have, like a notepad and a notebook. Sometimes it's easy to just print out the MLS sheet and then give them that so that they can take a look at it and then make notes on the actual MLS sheet. That's pretty simple and easy to do. That might be better than this, but this just gives you an idea of something else you can add to your packets. Make an offer on a home, what the process is involved with that, closing on the home. This just gives little synopses of what's involved with each of those areas. And then closing on the home, all the little bits and pieces that are involved with that part of the real estate process. And then again, more of their wish list. These are just thrown in here, but, and I've tailored this a whole lot different to what I would do today. These are things that I would print out for myself. And as I'm asking them questions, you know, you want a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom? And they would tell me and why. And, you know, do you want a view or no view, or, you know, all the details. I need that information. So when I'm doing my searches, I can properly really cast a wide net when I'm looking in MLS for different criteria for their home, whether it's interior wish list, exterior, again, interior, and then homes that they've toured. You want to make sure you also keep a running tally, because sometimes it's, if you don't ask enough questions or they're just really not ready to buy, you could be showing them a lot of houses and it gets fuzzy the number of homes that you've taken a look at. So even as to keep tally for yourself as an agent, all the properties you've shown them, what the price points were, what they liked or didn't like about them, how much they liked the house. Was it a 1 out of 10, a 10 out of 10? Why didn't they get it? What happened? This is just good to help you tailor what to find for your client. Also, always having testimonials is going to be super beneficial because it also promotes the value that you have with other clients. That will come. You could get testimonials of people that can speak to your character, and that would be helpful to start to have like starter testimonials on your pages. You could do things like that. And who do you get those from? You can get those from people you work with, your peers, friends, family members, business owners, people that you've dealt with that would say something nice about you. And while you're asking them for the testimonial, you could always ask them, would you consider using me as your preferred realtor? And they might say yes. They might say no, I already have someone, or oh, okay, well, I understand that. I hope that I get clients that are as loyal to me like you are to your realtor, whoever that is. So you can always say things like that, but they might still be willing to give you a testimonial. So they don't necessarily have to just, ideally, you want them to have bought or sold a home through you, but I think it's okay to get character references from people, and as long as they're okay with you putting it in print, make sure you get that permission from them as well. Something else to throw in there is just like an area map of all the different homes that you have, and this will be later on, that you have sold or helped people move to, whether you helped them on the list side or the buy side. You can make like a little map that has all the little dots. That's good, especially if you're like this one here. This was an example of like Topeka, wherever Topeka is, whoever this realtor is that has this number of properties that they helped clients with. I would say that's probably an expert. I would want to go to that agent because they know those neighborhoods really, really well. So something like this can help leverage your value when you're talking with a client. All of these things that are leveraging value and adding value to who you are as a realtor is going to make it easy when it comes time to saying, we have to go through the buyer broker agreement. And let me explain what that is. And so when you get to that point, it's going to be like, oh, well, it's a no-brainer. Of course, I'm paying you to help me purchase a home. A lot of first-time buyers don't know that they don't pay you, first of all. It's only going to be buyers that they're either investors or sellers that have sold multiple times that will know that something's different with how the process is. Is it a good idea to learn how to do this now? Yes, because you're only going to make yourself more of a professional by doing this. I think no matter what happens with the lawsuit, I think this is just going to change the scope of the landscape, and you're going to start seeing a lot of realtors out there who are going to get a lot of listings or know how to articulate their value to a client, to a buyer, to ask for a fee and get paid. Otherwise, and I didn't get a chance to do it today, but there are some MLSs that allow you to do a search on homes to see if there is a commission. If there's like 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever the percentage is, if there's a way to filter it. I've not checked our local MLS to see if that's even a thing to do, but there are some that do that. That may now stop doing that, but their processes are probably going to change as well. It's a very it's like an earthquake, right? The ground is a little shaky here and there. Nothing's really clear. So anything can happen with MLSs, with associations, with NAR and all the other states. So there's a lot of stuff that can happen. But what I want to show you next is, let's see if I have it up. I do. Is the buyer broker. Buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. I want you all to get super familiar with this form. This form here is in your zip forms, and you're going to look at it. You're going to read it. line for line. You're going to pretend that you're filling in information like I pretended here. Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, eXp Realty is who that client is granting to receive money from. It's starting on today's date and it's ending 365 days from now, basically one whole year. And you're going to write down the property. If you already have identified a property that they want to purchase, you put that in right here. If you're not sure and you're just starting out the process, you can put in the counties. Or if they're like, I'm only going to buy in, Aptos, and I'm only going to buy between 1 million and 2 million. You can put all that information in there. Otherwise, at least if you have the counties that you're working with, then you can get paid. Now, if they decide on a whim, I'm going to buy something in San Mateo and you only marked 4 of these right here, then you might not get paid. They can fight and say, I don't want to pay you because this paper only said 4 counties and I actually purchased in a different county, so I don't owe you anything. They might win that. They might win that. So just, you're going to put down what comes out through your conversations with your clients and then how much you want them to pay. Now, everything is negotiable when it comes to fees. There is no set price. Yes, I put a price right here, a percentage in here. You might say 5,000 to show buyers. You might say 10,000. I don't know. It's up to you. You can always let them know. First of all, it's also going to be dependent on who your client is. If they're a VA buyer, first-time buyer, VA is probably going to restrict anything or probably just say, absolutely not, this buyer cannot pay anything else besides their 1% funding fee that we allow them to pay. So that's going to have to come out of somewhere else. So you're going to have to negotiate that with the seller, and you're going to have a conversation with the buyer, because if you want to be paid X percent, you're going to have to calculate out what X percent is of the property that your buyer wants to purchase. And that X percent is probably going to have to be negotiated on top of that list price so that you can add it higher, the seller, and then request it in the offer or in the terms that the seller pay for the fee of, the certain amount. Now, this is where the lenders come into play. And this is why there's a lot of shaky ground, because I think it's up to 3% is the maximum that a lender usually says is allowable for any buyer to receive any type of concession. So I don't think it would include realtors' commissions fees. It might, I don't know. It's never happened before. I don't think that the language right now says that it would include that. So as of today, a lender might say, yeah, that 3% doesn't, that's just for the lender, but they can only get like 10,000 for closing costs. Okay, that's separate. So today the lender might say it's separate, but tomorrow they might say, well, I don't know, it just, everything's kind of unknown right now. So it really just depends. So that's why it's going to be good to be aware of all of this. Another thing that's going to set you apart is learning and connecting with a lender to find out, what are the different loan programs out there? You don't have to know specifics because you're not the lender, but you need to know enough to be able to sound educated about different loan type products, so that way you can share that with your client as a knowledgeable source. But you're not the professional in that field, and you definitely want them to talk to a lender to confirm everything. Like, are there first-time home buyers programs in certain cities? What is a below market program? What is a Measure J program? What is a Measure, whatever else program? Different cities, different counties have different names for their income restricted programs. Oh yeah, Measure J was one of them. So you want to know what those differences are. That's all you need to know. There's a program for teachers, there's a program for doctors, there's a program for police and fire people. There's obviously a couple different programs for military. There's 2 ways. Military, they can use their VA loan, or they can get a California veterans loan. They're both 2 different things, and they act differently. There's a CalHFA loan, there's a USDA loan. There's a lot of different things to learn and try to remember, but they won't all stick. So I definitely recommend when you're talking to a few, talk to a couple, 2 or 3 different lenders. One, just to familiarize yourself with who they are. I definitely recommend having a good big bank lender like a Wells Fargo or Bank of America or US Bank. Talk with one of them. Their process is going to be a lot different than a lender who is a mortgage broker, a boutique lender. They're going to have different programs. They're going to have different, some lenders have bigger pools of brokerages, mortgage brokerage houses to pull from than any other type of lender. So, and you have to fit a certain mold if you go work with, if you use the lender from Wells Fargo or Bank of America or anything like that. So having a knowledge base, at least something you can even refer to on a little notepad somewhere, is going to be helpful to you when you're talking with different clients. Because when they tell you their situation, your mind is going to be like a little Rolodex already flipping through the different lenders that would be good for that particular type of buyer or seller and what their needs are. So you want to be aware of all of that as well. Does anybody have any questions about this so far? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Does it seem overwhelming?
A little bit.
It's going to be good to learn this form right here, though. This one here, I want you all to read it. I want you all to pretend that you are using this. I know, Jorge, you have clients that you're working with now. Start reading this, start getting used to speaking about it, and put a list of possible, like a buyer packet together, because and I know we have not really gone through listing packets, but I want you to put together, even if you Google a couple things like, what does a real estate listing packet look like? I have one too, though, by the way, that I can send you guys, a listing packet and the buyer packet. In fact, I'll just send you my samples. That way you can see what you would use for yours. What else do you think would be good in there? Something else you can add to it would be the actual residential purchase contract. Give one to the buyer so they know what it looks like. It's like, here's a 16-page document that you're going to be signing when it comes time to put an offer on a house. I don't want you to be surprised when I send you a computer digital signature packet for you to sign. It's going to ask you to click sign here, 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 and here. And it'll take 2 minutes to get through. But if you sit and read the 16-page document, it's going to take you a good hour, because it's foreign. It's all written in English, but it's like a foreign language. When a client is reading this information, they either understand it or they don't, or they trust you implicitly to let them know if there's something wrong in this packet of information you just sent them. That's where you need to make it very clear that, yes, while you're the professional, it is their responsibility to read and understand what it is they're signing. If they have any questions, they need to ask you. But at the same time, you need to be the one to give them guidance. You didn't just go to school and have the teacher give you paperwork and say, here, read it. What if you don't know how to read? What if you have a hard time comprehending information? It's dependent, it behoves the teacher and they're dependent to tell you, now here's what you're looking at. You're looking at a buyer representation and broker compensation agreement. This is explaining how a buyer's agent gets paid and in what method and in what time frame, and the representation that goes along with it. And if there's a cancellation, what happens, and the timing of the compensation and the disclosures that are involved. And it talks all about the agency and then the obligations and the authorization and good faith. It goes through a lot of things, but if I don't give you a highlight overview of it, you're not going to have any idea what you're reading. And in fact, this is the first time I'm throwing this at you, so I haven't given you the highlight overview on it. So I'm just showing it to you here on the screen. I do want you guys to pull it up in zip forms. I do want you to read it. It's only 3 pages. It's not very long, but it's very, very detailed. So anything on here, like, read it and sit with it for a minute. Like if you're reading, attorney fees, okay, that's a short little paragraph there, but some of these are a little bit longer. Mediation, arbitration, some of these things here, and then, make a note, when you're going through this, make notes and like put a question mark. What does that really mean? Does it mean this and that? Or, what is your interpretation of this? Because as soon as you know this, it's going to be so easy, way easier for you to be able to communicate with your clients your value, and that you can even explain this. If you can explain this, you can explain the contract. And if you can do that, they're not going to have any trouble paying you. And if it means they pay you out of pocket, that's one way they can pay you. If they pay you at the close of escrow because they tie it and wrap it into their loan, so it's a little bit higher, and that check gets cut to you at the close of escrow, okay. One of the things that they're not aware of is that buyers have already been paying buyer's agents, but in a roundabout way. When the buyer purchases the home for $1 million, part of that $1 million is going to the seller, but that seller has already agreed through their listing contract to pay their listing agent and a buyer broker agent. So by them even making the offer on the home and getting it accepted, that part of that payment of the purchase goes through. It's like a pass through. So this way there's no pass through. It's just very clear. Buyers do pay, but now it's just going to be very clear how you pay. You're going to pay either upfront or at the close of escrow or out of your own pocket, or you're going to request the seller to pay for it, or you're going to add it and get strategic to how you put it, wrap it into the loan or make the price higher. So there's just different ways. It's always happened where they get paid, but unless things are clear, it could be where you don't get paid. And in the MLS, just so you know, if the MLS says $1 or $0, ours doesn't allow for 0 that I'm aware of. I think ours is a minimum of $1 for MLS Listings Inc. If it says $1, it's $1. That's all the buyer's agent is going to get paid unless you negotiate with the seller, but the listing side. And then there would be a cooperating broker compensation agreement form that would need to be filled out. So things to be aware of. Again, that what I put in the Mentee notes that I sent out this morning, go to CAR, go to NAR, check out all the different links and training classes. There was a buyer broker agreement class today at 1 o'clock and I completely missed it. I had it on my calendar to go to, but I missed it. So hopefully it's recorded. If it's recorded, I'll make a point to send it to you guys. CAR has another meeting. When is their meeting? Their meeting is, hang on, I have so many pages open on my screen. CAR is, that's not it. CAR, get rid of that. Let's make that small. Oh my gosh, I have so many on here. Okay, let me look. CAR is when, oh my God, I have no idea where it is right now. Okay, well, go to CAR. I'll send, I think I sent that out too. There was another meeting that you can hear with the attorneys of CAR. I think it's happening November 9th, tomorrow. And I don't recall what time it is, but there was a link, I believe, in the Mentee notes that I sent this morning. And if I did not send it, I will find it and send it. But yeah, that's where we're at. I wanted that topic to be up in front of everybody's minds. I wanted everybody to get an idea of what that BRBC form looks like. And I want you guys to review it, read it, learn it, ask me questions about it. And has anyone listened to any of the podcasts or read any books recently that either one that I've suggested or some that you suggest that are pretty good that we should take a listen to? No? Okay. Well,
No, I was gonna say no. The only one I usually will hear every once in a while when I'm driving over the hill is the Bigger Pockets podcast.
oh,
It's like
okay.
an investor podcast. They just talk a lot about the how people try to do like fix and flips or
Mhm.
multifamily stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. If you come across one of them that's really good, definitely send it to the group because that's always fun. I think I've just gotten. I was always like, podcasts, onesie twosies here and there. But now I listen to so many, and I have some that I follow all the time, like pretty religiously. So I have some favorites that are really good, and some of the ones that I've been sharing are some of my favorites, but I have a whole lot more. And yeah, of course, I just send you guys the real estate ones. There's a whole list of other ones that I like. But yeah, and books are so important. So if you don't listen to podcasts and you like reading actual books, there's a ton of great books that I can recommend. Or if you want to listen to them via Audible or read them on a Kindle, or my favorite book app is called Libby, and it connects with an actual library card, and you can get a lot of books free and instead of having to buy them. So every time I come across a new book to read, I check it out first in Libby, and if it's there, I get it from Libby. If it's not, then I'll go to Audible or Kindle. But yeah, it's fun. But okay, well, yeah, if you guys come across anything that you think is fun and good and a golden nugget of information that you like, share it. Sharing is caring. Any questions from anyone? You guys are so quiet. Okay.
No questions today. No.
No. Did you put your deal together?
No, there was a lot of stuff going on last week,
Okay.
but he's still looking.
Okay.
We submitted an offer
Okay.
and they didn't get back to us by our cutoff,
Okay.
and the buyer he didn't like that.
Oh, he got
Like,
offended.
yeah,
Okay.
he got offended and
Yeah.
he's like, you know what? We're gonna move on to the next one. I was like, okay, we can do that.
You can do that. That's right.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. Okay, there's always more out there, so it'll happen. And how was your vacation?
It was good. Colombia is very safe and very nice.
Wow. I bet you
It
have
was a nice
beautiful
trip.
pictures. The scenery,
Yeah,
I'm sure, was gorgeous, right? Lots of greenery, right?
lots of greenery. Their buildings are just Medellin is super clean. Like I pictured it like a mini Mexico, but just so much cleaner.
Wow, that's nice to
Very
hear.
clean.
Yeah, wonderful. Good. I see Raquel's walking on the beach, so enjoy.
Oh, that's good.
It looks fun. It looks cold out there. Are you cold? Nod your head. Yes. No, she's not cold. Okay. Well, all right, everybody. I'm gonna let you go before I get cut off here, and I'll send this out. And if you reminder, if you didn't do it yet, the one thing I do want you guys to do is to go back to one of the calculators that I was talking about before. I think Juan, you were on there. I think you were the one I was doing
Yeah.
that, right? The calculator. Send me what you got for your numbers. I want you don't have to share your numbers with everybody. I just want all of you to share your numbers with me separately so I can keep tally of that, because then that'll help me help you. It'll help me put some maybe more material together to individualize for you all. Once I know what your numbers are that you're looking to hope for, to reach for next year, then we can work on that. And then we can work on your business planning, because November is business planning for everyone. Brokerages across the board, a lot of people are working on their business plans and tweaking them and getting them ready for 2024. So that way, when January 1 comes, you already know what you're going to be doing for the rest of the year. And nothing says you have to wait to get started. You can get started sooner than later. So yeah. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye.